You know, it's what she said off the top about decorum and what we put right at the very top of the broadcast with the big voice guy talking about what's going to happen. It is weird because of what's going on in the Republican Party right now that we are thinking about what the president's going to say and how it sets up the campaign and how he tries to address the legislative priorities of the people who mean the most to him and all these things. And we're also like, what are they going to do? I mean, there is a little bit of there is anticipation of like what weirdness may come from the Republican opposition. I don't know if Speaker Johnson has the ability to calm them down or talk them out of it, but I think it's telling that that's a big part of how we brace for nights like this.
Well, I mean, look, at a selfish level, it makes it more fun, right, to watch. I mean, anything could happen. It's like
at least more stressful.
Like, I think it gets back to a larger dynamic in the general election contest. President Biden is the only one in charge of his destiny, right? Like you just said it. Speaker can't control his caucus. It is the analog. Trump can't control his impulses. Trump will be what Trump will be. The Republican members will be what they will be. They can't control themselves. But the president is the most disciplined and experienced. And I know lots of times we talk about how that cuts against him. He of all the people in the room tonight, he really is the only one in control of how this night goes down. In that, of course, they will be what they will be. Right. He's having the same conversation behind closed doors, I'm sure, that we are right now. Yeah. You know, anything could happen, and I'm sure Anita Dunn's going, "Oh God, but don't say the F word." I mean, he's the only one tonight. I mean, I think it'd be great, but that's probably for another block. But he's the only one in control of how that goes down. And I think last time it happened, as the senator just said, it went great for him.
Yeah, and the public watches this, right? And they're reminded, oh, wait, what happens in Washington? The president has to work with this Congress. Why is there a new speaker? That new face behind him is not the one from the last State of the Union. Yeah. Well, people have heard or have some idea that the guy who could barely get in the first time, McCarthy, then got fired, and now they got this new guy. And so when you talk about, immigration, there's real stuff to be done. The economy, they've been doing it, kind of, the White House argues, without Congress, right? And then you say, we want to do more, and this is, and I don't know how the president will do it, we're waiting to see, one of the least productive Congresses in modern history. Yep. So I think he's both going to talk about an economic comeback. We've seen that in the excerpts. Plans. Hey, there's more I can do. That's why he wants a second term. And also, implicitly or explicitly, the negative space in the painting. Everyone else in this room on the Republican leadership hasn't done much with their time or jobs that you elected them to.
Yeah. That's very true. And I think the best moment last year that we all remember was the Social Security moment, right? When the president had the back and forth. There's no doubt, as Nicole and I both can confirm, you plan those moments to the best that you can. But there's some aspect of it you can't plan because they can't plan. Is somebody in that audience today likely going to yell about immigration? Are they going to yell about some other issue that the president's going to have to respond to? The White House also plans for that. So it's very weird we're talking about it. It's also weird, maybe weirder, that you're sitting in the White House over the last few weeks planning out, okay, how are you going to respond if Marjorie Taylor Greene yells about this? How are you going to respond if they yell about that? And that might be the moment we remembered from tonight.
There was news today that, that there's back and forth efforts to stop that Mike Johnson, I think, rightly thinks it reflects poorly on his members, that he wants to police that he got responses from Lauren Boebert being like, nah, dude. And I mean,
no, we're going to do it anyway. Don't tell us.
Yes, I mean that I won't. She's like, I don't even check my behavior for my preacher. I think she said in church was the quote, if I'm recalling that correctly.
Well,
my first thought,
rules of theaters.
Right. Yes. Good point. My first thought as a parent was like,
exactly should we be expecting?
Self-regulation is a really important skill to teach your kids. Just as a side note to everyone out there with kids, like self-regulating is a really important thing in adulthood. But also the fact that there is a contrast to Ari's point with this Congress that is really invisible to people that don't spend a lot of time thinking about politics. Everyone in America knows who Donald Trump is. Everyone knows who the president is, Joe Biden. Maybe 1 in 5 people know who Mike Johnson is. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know what percentage of people could tell you which party controls the House of Representatives. So the basic facts of that dynamic that you just listed, that's like news to a lot of the people that come to watch the State of the Union on a night when tens of millions of people pay attention.
And very briefly, there's who is Mike Johnson, and then there's why is Mike Johnson. And that goes to how they've spent a lot of time fighting with themselves rather than delivering, even on conservative principles, let alone any other
Yeah,
legislation.
the point that you made, Ari, about how this is the least one of the least productive Congresses, if not the least productive Congress in the modern history of the United States, is a double-edged thing for this president, too, because he wants to talk about his record of getting things done with bipartisan legislation, but he's standing in front of a Congress that literally can't put a Y on the end of a weekday name without being sure that they're going to be a fight about it. You know what I mean? So